Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the first episode of The Walking Dead, Days Gone By. Now, first things first, it's a great episode. It's also named after the first book of the same name, and I think what really strikes me about this episode over all the others is its depressing nature, because we open with Rick shooting a little girl who he thought was a survivor, but it turns out that she's a walker. So you have this depressing tone, and then you cut to the main credits, which is the first time it landed on our screen, and it was great, absolutely beautiful. However, there is a big but. I think it drags on for too long. As pilots go, it's very good, but not title sequence. I mean, but like the episode in general, there are bits that could have been cut back. For example, did we really need so long with Rick and Shane before we were shot? In the comics, it was a page. It was them shooting, the guy shooting back, Rick gets shot, wake up in a coma. Yeah, we had this whole thing, and yes, it establishes more character, but do we really need it? Who knows? So, you've got Rick wakes up in a coma, he wanders through the hospital, you get the don't open dead inside door, which wasn't actually in the comics, fun fact for you. And then, after all of that, he runs back home, his wife and kid are gone, so he stumbles outside and he's hit over the head with a shovel. And then he wakes up tied to a bed with this guy called Morgan, who's quite sort of, he's like, have you been bitten? Rick's like, well, no, just shot. He's like, right, okay then. So Morgan's very untrusting, but he does let Rick out, and they discuss over dinner. And Morgan starts to realise, well, hang on a minute, you're only just hearing about this, aren't you? So Morgan teaches Rick the ins and outs of the apocalypse. Gotta kill him in the head. Don't get caught in swarms, things like that. So he teaches them the in and outs, and in return, Rick basically says, "Well, I've still got the keys to the police station. You wanna come along? There's hot water so you can have a shower. There's guns. There's ammo." So they go along. They have a shower. They wash, get dressed. Rick puts on his police uniform, and Rick gets his guns, and Dwayne, who's Morgan's son, turns around and says, right, well, your family are probably in Atlanta. And Rick's like, I'm going to head over there. So Rick heads off. He gives Morgan a gun, and Morgan goes back home, and he starts shooting the zombies around his house to try and draw out his wife, but he can't bring himself to do it. So there's that. Then Rick drives off into the sunset, which then chronologically speaking, we get the cold opening, which happens in between then and him getting to a farm, where he then gets a horse, and you get the iconic shot of him riding alone into Atlanta. So after that, he gets into Atlanta, runs into a big herd of a couple of dozen, or maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 zombies, and they are running, as in actually running. There was a lot of weird zombie stuff in the earlier seasons, particularly season 1. So the zombies were running at him. He rides his horse away, And then they swarm him. He falls off the horse and he then gets swarmed. He crawls under this tank and he basically goes to shoot himself. And as he looks up, he can see that the door of the tank on the bottom is open. So he crawls in there, shuts the door, chills for a moment, realizes that there's a zombie next to him. So bam, pop go his eardrums, and he's sitting there just like this. And then you hear the song on the radio, or the voice on the radio saying, hey you cozy in there? And that's where the episode ends, and it zooms out and you can see all the zombies surrounding the tank with an amazing piece of music, Space Junk, playing. So that's basically the episode. Now, what I mean by it goes on too long is it's just, there are certain parts of it that just drag out. Right, now I love The Walking Dead and I love all of it, but like where, you know, with Morgan's wife, I get that we need to set the scene, but did we really need like that much? You know, did we really need that much of the turning the doorknob and things like that? It's just my opinion. So that's where it stands at the moment, The Walking Dead. You got this pilot episode, and I think the way the pilot episode sets up the tone of the show, you know, you've got this bleak, no one is guaranteed to live. And what I will say is that that's missing from the later seasons. If you look at the later seasons of The Walking Dead, people like Rick, Michonne, Daryl, Maggie, Negan, they all have plot immunity. They all have plot armor. Carol as well. And even to a certain extent, people like Ezekiel. These peak characters, Eugene, they all seem to have this, they just can't die. Especially Daryl, because I think at this point people are so attached to him that they would just riot if he died. So that doesn't fill me with much hope for future spin-offs, but who knows? I mean, we've got the idea that Rick might lose his hand, so that's something. But getting back to my point, these early days, they really didn't have that sense of he's safe, she's safe. Well, you did for Rick for a certain amount of sort of, he's the main character, I've read the comics, I roughly know where this is going, but like everyone else, fair game. So I think that was what the pilot and really the early seasons were really good at. They set the tone for no one survives unharmed perfectly. And at the end of the day, that's the essence of The Walking Dead. It's the idea that it's we're not the ones who live. We're just people that are surviving until our clock runs out and until we're bitten. That's the idea of The Walking Dead. So that is season 1, episode 1, Days Gone By for you, my personal thoughts. And I will catch you in the next one with a review of season 1, episode 2, Guts. Unless I get back around to watching The Walking Dead World Beyond, in which case I will be covering that, because that will be linking closely to The Ones Who Live. So I'll catch you guys in the next one.